Whoa. So I'm just trying to get my heart rate back to normal. This is Ellis Gelios coming to you live for the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV after we've just done the biggest snatch and grab win over Newcastle. Good thing we did too, because after last season when we went there and had that really ridiculous VAR decision go against us right at the death, it was very hard to take. This time round, we're on the right end of where the luck is. Nigel Bogard, bless him, still an Adelaide boy at heart, obviously, ensuring that we get a vital penalty after being on the back foot for a good, pretty much 45 minutes. And Craig Goodwin very calmly slots it home. We win 2-1. Just want to go back to where it all began and firstly credit Jakobsen, because he had fantastic vision to pick out Ryan Halloran, who has just come up with the most inventive piece of skill I've ever seen. Basically, just tries to lob. Well, it might be a bit extreme, but sorry, I'm right on the edge at the moment. Anyway, he's tried to lob the keeper, Glenn Moss. It comes off the crossbar, back off of Moss's knee, and Nicky Miliusic taps it home. We go 1-0 up, but there was always the feeling that Newcastle were going to get back into this game. They did get back into it through a goal from O'Donovan. Ryan Strain sort of went to sleep at the back post, and O'Donovan scores. Now, look, we need to be quite honest about this game. It wasn't particularly great in the way that we set out, because we were very vulnerable. Newcastle missed so many good opportunities, particularly right at the start of the first half. And you just feel like if it had been a Victory or a Perth or a Wellington even at the moment, that we might have definitely shipped a few more goals in that first half. But not to be, and very luckily indeed, we somehow were able to stifle them at the right moments. Get right out of there as soon as we could with all 3 points, and it's a vital win as well, because in the next week and a half we play the most two informed teams in the league, starting with Wellington next on Thursday. They've been in fantastic form, and they come to Coopers, where our form has not been good at all. And so you feel like this win is going to do so much for us, because had we come out of there with a draw or even a loss, you feel like it would have been a little bit flat still, and we may not have really been at our best for that game against Wellington. The other thing is that we're really running on less than reserves in that last period of the second half. We did get a sideline report from Adam Peacock that Galloway and a couple of the others, I think Goodwin was one as well, were really cooked, and really couldn't see out much more of the game, and yet somehow they did, so credit to them. But wow, what a heroic display. Ryan Halloran, for me, absolutely the man of the match. Played a part in both goals. Got the counter-attack going, did really well to stay on his feet, because I think it was Ugarkovic, as we broke in that counter, tried pulling his shirt, and Halloran managed to evade that, kept sprinting at goal, managed to pick out Ryan Kiddo, who just backed himself, which is fantastic to see. Craving that the last few weeks, just some of these wide plays that we have, just back yourself, just with the ball at your feet. You're good enough, you're playing professional football. It's the dying stages of the game. What's the worst that can happen if you if you try and drop the shoulder and take on the defender? Something might happen. If you lose the ball, it's the last few seconds of the game, and the ref probably blows. Thankfully, he doesn't look to just hold the ball up, sprints into the box, and Nigel Bogard, sadly for him, concedes a penalty, and it was pretty rash as well, I have to admit. Now, just on Bogues, his wife was actually my dietitian whilst they were based in Adelaide. Lovely pair of people, have to say. I've got all the time in the world for Nigel Bogard. But he did us two big favours tonight because he played a part in both goals that we scored. First goal, he's lost track of Halloran with that ball over the top from Jakobsen. You expect more from an experienced centre half, and obviously the penalty to concede a penalty right at the dying stages as the captain of your team when you should be winning this game. It's not a good night for him on a personal note, but wow. Look, we just have to take that win and run as far away as we can from that place because on a different day we are not winning that game at all. Definitely, as I've put in the description, very similar vibes to the Melbourne Victory performance last season where we went down to 9 men and somehow managed to cling on for sheer life. I think that was 2-1 as well. So, really sort of brought back memories of that game. But holy shit, what a win it is for us. Going forward, the concern immediately becomes who is available. I've got to admit, when Blackwood came on, he still looked a bit sort of to be labouring a little bit in his movement. And obviously the reports that have come out from tonight are that various players were really playing on their last legs out there. Now, it was hot, so that might have factored. Apparently in Newcastle, obviously the kickoff was delayed, so it must have been quite a hot day. And yeah, that plays a factor in how long players last. But you've got to really think that we're going to be stretched heavily when it comes to the depth that we've got and how we line up against Wellington and Victory. Going to be two very difficult games coming up for us. And it's going to end a period where we've had a lot of home games and commence a new period where we're going to be on the road a lot. So, yeah, you'd think we really need to win those next two games to put ourselves in a good position to try and cement at least the top 6 spot come the end of the regular home and away year. But you know what? Just on that topic, how much better are we away from home these days? At times today, just in some of the sequences, how controlled the midfield was. We looked, honestly, so much more comfortable and likely to get a result than we do at home, which is bizarre. And it's almost a case of, can we play away every week at the moment? Because every time we do play away, we seem to get the better of teams that we traditionally struggle against. A huge win to take away from the Hunter Valley tonight for Adelaide United. I'm just going to start reading some of your comments, getting a lot coming through. So Michael Spiro says, please tell me how Izzo didn't get in the votes. Do you reckon he will be off to Europe next season? Michael, for Paul, it's always a case of can he improve his distribution a little bit. Again, tonight, there were times where there was no press on and he went to hoof it and he's cleared it straight out as opposed to finding one of the wingers for us or just trying to find a target. So for Paul, it's always going to be about can he improve his distribution. As a shot stopper, we all know he's fantastic. One of his best contributions to the club tonight, in my opinion. How he didn't get in the best 3 for Fox or whatever it was that you're referring to bemuses me. I would assume it's because Fox are very sort of, all about trying to make it a case of celebrating attacking players. When the league's not getting a whole lot of good ratings and people that go to games, it's all about making a hero out of our outfielders as opposed to talking about how good a goalkeeper's been on any given day. But Paul Izzo was absolutely immense tonight. I just want to also, just one out of left field, Ken Ilso will be disappointed with the fact he only got an hour because for me he actually looked really good. Kerr's dragging Ilso was probably due to him running out of steam and because it was so hot, and we know that he doesn't have a huge engine, but he actually looked pretty good. Thread through a beautiful ball for Halloran early in the first half, which unfortunately Ben Halloran didn't take, but he actually looked quite composed in midfield for us today, and a byproduct of that was how good Leah and Izza were is just again today. There was a moment where he's turned 3 of their guys, and Ugarkovic has just completely butchered him to the ground. And there are people on the eastern board of Australia saying how good Ugarkovic is and how much love Ugarkovic always gets. Well, is just 3 times the player, if you ask me, and that was evidence tonight. But yeah, just going back to Ken Hill, so I want to see more of him now. He's shown now that he can do something for Adelaide United, and maybe he can be that player that we're really hoping will emerge as the classic number 10 that orchestrates a lot of goals and good attacks. So, yeah, encouraging signs, got to say. Ken also did pretty well in the half an hour that he got, in the 60 minutes that he got, sorry. Defensively, look, you can talk about the fact that Newcastle had plenty of chances, but at the same time, Regan and Jakobsen weren't really caught out on any occasions. I think, it's encouraging that there's a pretty good potential pairing there. If Elsie does struggle to get back into the starting 11, obviously he probably won't. We know that he's a favourite of Marco Kurz. But, if Elsie gets injured or touch what he doesn't or has more suspensions, we can rely on certainly Elsie and Jakobsen doing a job. Other key points to point out from tonight, basically, I think the team was pretty good in terms of the selection. I think he got it right, controlled the midfield, and that really set the tone for what was always going to be a case of us being in this game. Whether we ended up losing it right at the death or something just didn't go our way, that's a different story. But I think we always controlled the battle in the middle of the park. Yeah, we sat off a lot in the second half, and obviously you allow a lot of the impetus to be on the opposition to get forward, and that can become a little bit uncomfortable for certain players, especially when it's so hot and when you're away from home. But a credit to the players, they obviously carried out the instructions to a T. And yeah, I don't see how you can not sort of commend the performance from the boys. You can't really say it was overly lucky, even though that's what the general feeling is. A few more comments. George Ragius, old Ragsy, says it was a lucky win. Probably in the context of the season, George, I'd agree with you that it was lucky, but we worked really hard. We worked immensely hard, and even just by looking at Nicky Miliusnic in that first half, he was tiring me out, to be honest. He was getting up and down, just running around like a headless chicken. And you've really got to admire that in a player, when they're having an inconsistent patch in their career form-wise, to just at least give us that hard work and desire. It demands respect from fans. Marty Keogh, good to hear from Marty, says that was a good win and a great team effort. Galloway was man of the match for me. Yeah, Scott Galloway. I've got to say with Scott, his first touch is actually really underrated. If you notice how well he brings the ball down the next time you watch him, when he's got players pressing him in the immediate aftermath of the ball coming towards him, that takes a lot of skill, particularly when you're playing in the heat that you have to in Australia, because we play in summer, obviously. The heat can get to players pretty easily, and one of the first things that happens psychologically is that your touch is off when you're feeling distressed from how hot it is. Tonight, I should say, Scott Galloway brought the ball down expertly with his first touch, and you know what? That's actually a rare commodity in this league. A lot of the time, you get players putting in first touches like farmers, and so I love that. Yeah, and a good shout for Scott to be man of the match. Probably not far off there. He probably was labouring a little bit towards the end of that game, as was just about everybody. And he was given a well-deserved substitution just to get some air back in the lungs, I'm sure, after putting in such a hard effort. But yeah, I'm loving Scott Galloway. I mean, we picked this guy up. We didn't even pick him up. He came to us. Just in case you didn't know that, we didn't go out and specifically recruit Scott Galloway. He actually came to the club himself and said, I need a contract. I'm a professional footballer without a club. Will you look at me? Just let me train. I don't need any money. Just let me train with the main group. And please, I'll prove to you that I'm worthy of a contract in the A-League. And we gave it to him. And here he is coming up with the goods for us. Linda says, Michael Spiro, ridiculous he didn't get some points. By far, man of the match. Kept us in the match. Yeah, 100%. Izzo tonight, like I said, one of his greatest contributions in an Adelaide United Guernsey. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think we'll be seeing him next season. It's just the way the club works, to be honest. When you've got someone that can fill his position. I mean, the thing about Paul is that he's as a traditional keeper, he's invaluable to us because there aren't actually that many great Australian goalkeepers around at the moment, particularly young ones. But look, because of the fact that he's probably generating a few headlines in Europe at the moment and he's had such a good season and because he's such a good shot stopper, I think, his market value will rise drastically between now and the finals, and I think that he will go, whether it's Asia or Europe, probably Asia, somewhere in Asia, or he might get somewhere in one of the sort of second tier leagues in Europe, like a Portugal or somewhere like that. You never know, but I can see it happening because we've got Margush waiting in the wings, and then we've got Isaac Richards below Margush, who, if you listen to people that watch the youth team and people who are closely connected to the youth setup, Isaac Richards is pushing Margush there week in, week out. So it's, it makes complete sense that we probably move Paul Izzo on if the right fee gets negotiated for. I'm sure that'll happen, sadly, because it's just how we operate. But we will demand a transfer fee as opposed to previous times where we've been soft on players leaving the club for moves that supposedly better their careers. I think the league's moved on since those days, and I think as a club we'll definitely demand quite an extensive fee for Izzo if he's in as good a form at the time as he is at the moment. So yeah, that's what I think about the possible retention of Izzo. I don't think it'll happen, and he's probably right at that age now where he leaves. So good luck to him, but hopefully we get the absolute most out of him between now in the sticks and the end of the season. So. Sorry, I'm just a little bit distracted. They're playing some Aloisi footage on the Fox post-game show. John Aloisi, obviously an Adelaide boy, with his brother Ross, just sacked recently by Brisbane. What do you think about, if Marco Kurz moves on from the club? Hopefully he doesn't. John Aloisi, 2 questionable stints in the league so far with Melbourne Heart and Brisbane Roar. Yeah, it was in the Brisbane job for 3 years. Does he have the temperament to be a manager at a senior level? We've seen him blow up so often. What would he be like? Has he fractured too many relationships with Adelaide United key people during all the past clashes where they've just blown up on the sidelines and just had a meltdown? Thoughts on Aloisi potentially becoming the Adelaide United manager one day? Good to see that Adelaide United player has tuned in. AP, good on you, mate. Hope you get well soon. Having a great season so far. Tim Tran says, Anthony Luongo, Luke Luongo, come on, you Reds. Thanks for that, Tim. We'll take that as a comment. If it's got something to do with Luongo in the Asian Cup, yeah, hopefully we see a lot more of him than we did in the World Cup. If there's any other comments or questions anyone has, feel free to let me address it. Again, just recapping the events of tonight, a remarkable 2-1 win for the team in exceptionally challenging circumstances away to Newcastle Jets. How do you see us going in the next 2 games? Wellington and Victory. I'd like to think we'd get at least 4 points out of the next 2 games. I think that would be really ideal considering it's at home, and we sort of should be expected to get the at least 3 points out of one of those 2 games. But Wellington in ridiculous form, and that's going to be a really interesting game when Wellington come here because. Since their inception as a New Zealand franchise, even when they were the Knights in the first 2 seasons, they've been garbage at Highmarsh. I can only recall probably 2 times that we've lost to them at home, if that, over the entire history of the A-League. So we're used to just, not even really having to expect much of a challenge whenever Wellington come to Cooper Stadium. But, at the moment, they've just drawn with victory and they've been winning their last, I think, before that, the last 3 games. Geez, it's going to be interesting. Mark Rudin being talked about as potentially the next best thing to come out of the pool of Australian coaches. Is it going to be another feather in his cap when Wellington come next Thursday to Coopers? You'd like to think that we'll be up for it after the fact that the lads are just going to be buzzing after getting such a snatch and grab tonight. But you never know at home. It's just been a really inconsistent season for the club at Coopers, so we never know what to expect. A few more comments just to get through. So Marty Keogh, loving the contributions. Marty, she's said... no to the Aloisi brothers coming to AFC. We can get someone better, but hope Marco stays for a little while longer. Certainly ditto to that, Marty. The problem with Marco Kurz and the whole contract renewal situation at the moment at Adelaide United is purely the fact that he doesn't have to be in any rush whatsoever. Clearly, he will be in demand. He's about to enter the last 6 months of his contract. So there's no need for him to rush into signing anything. He has the joy of being able to sit back in the last 6 months of his deal with us and just invite any offers from any other club and just negotiate anything he likes anywhere with anyone. You would assume some offers come his way, particularly given that we do look on track this season to at least finish somewhere in the finals and obviously winning the FA Cup and making the FA Cup final in his first season last year proves that, he's very, very capable and, he's probably got plenty to offer wherever he goes. So I'm sure he's going to get an offer of some form. The annoying thing for us is that we've kind of, he doesn't need us as much as we need him. So it's going to be really interesting to see where those contract negotiations with Marco Kurz go and how the club goes about it. We haven't heard anything. There's been Vow put out an article about how Marco Kurz doesn't like supermarkets in Adelaide being cold, which was a slightly odd one to go with. That was apparently in relation to Kurz and the current contract negotiations, and Marco diverted it and started talking about supermarkets being too cold in Adelaide. Where did the club go with negotiations? When do they start? And what do you offer him? And how do you keep him here? If, Sydney FC as an example, or, even the new club coming in, Western Melbourne, offer him certain guarantees that we're not going to be able to provide. And you know what I mean by that. Obviously, money for the transfer kitty, which we have to question whether we've got it even right now in January when we need it most. So, imagine what Marco Kurz could do with a few more offerings from a financial standpoint. Other than that, what have we got to really offer him to stay here? That's going to be interesting. If you've got any other comments, guys, just put them through in the thread here and I'll answer them as soon as possible. Remo Paris, I believe I've heard of Remo before. He's involved at the club, so good to see he's tuned in. He's said Aurelio there waiting. Interesting. Vidi, would you give Vidmar the role? Obviously a favourite son, took us on that fairy tale season where we've made the ACL final, the Club World Cup final and the A-League final in 1 year with an amazingly thin squad on the salary cap wages. Vidi, I wouldn't say no to it. If it's Vidmar who's the contingency, then fine, bring it on. Nothing wrong with bringing Vidmar back. You could say maybe that he didn't have the amount of success in the time since he left the Adelaide Post. He went to Thailand for a bit and was involved in the Ollie Roos as well, and probably didn't really, from a results point of view, track too well over that period of time. Back now in a role which doesn't really guarantee any pressure whatsoever. He's not the man that's going to be attacked when results don't happen in the job that he's in currently. So will he be happy to just have the comfortable job he's got at the moment, being the director of football or whatever his exact title is, upon being brought back to the club? Always interesting to consider the options that we have when it comes to who might be our new manager. But getting a bit off track. We might wrap there. I just want to quickly say I won't be at Wellington. There'll be no fan cams, unfortunately, at the Phoenix game due to pre-planned travel, which I'm very, very sorry about. It's the first and only game that I'll ever miss. Unfortunately, we have to go through with that and won't be at Wellington. So no fan cams for Wellington, but we'll be back for the Victory game, which looks like it's going to be absolutely huge at the moment. Victory, having stumbled against Wellington most recently, we know how good they are, and we know how much we struggle traditionally to get anything out of Victory when they come to the Reds, to the Cooper Stadium. So hopefully, big crowd, 15,000, let's push for it to come out against Victory in a couple of Wednesdays time from now, to Wednesday night game on the 9th of January. That's probably all I've got for you tonight. Again, just a massive shout out to the boys for the effort they put in. Heroic stuff, and to think that we've gone and won against the Jets with all those injuries, it shows that maybe, after all, there is a high ceiling that goes with this club for season 2018-19, and a higher one than what a lot of fans have started to believe after the last few weeks, and the rather uninspiring performances of late until tonight, where you've got to say they dug deep and did exceptionally well to come away with a result. At the end of the day, when it comes to A-League players and players that get recruited to clubs in the A-League, sometimes you can't always expect that you're going to bring players in that have quality. And so therefore, the one and only expectation you can have as a fan in the A-League is that the players always work hard and give their best. And you can say tonight that not one player didn't do that. So, full marks from a collective team point of view. Who was your 3-2-1? Feel free to leave that in the comments. Who was best on ground? Who do you want to see more out of? Strain at right back, starting over Moroney. I don't think either of those two players are making a significant enough case to be the regular starter in that right back position. I'm not sure what to make of that. Moroney offers more crossing wise and getting forward, I think. Strain's probably got more of an engine. He's more of a 90-minute player. And obviously, he's going to develop a lot more than Moroney, who's getting towards the wrong end of 30 now. But in terms of getting forward, Moroney's definitely the better player, I think, in that right-sided position. But like I said, neither of them really making a strong case to be the guaranteed starter in that spot. So what do you think, Moroney or Strain? Who's your preference? And again, just tonight, I know it felt like we got peppered and battered at times by Jets. But Regan and Jakobsen, they've only conceded one at the end of the day. And Elsy's been in that team all throughout pre-season until his red card last game. And so those two haven't really particularly had a whole lot of time to gel. And yet in challenging circumstances tonight, they've managed to really make a significant case for being the preferred pairing. What are your thoughts? I know Elsy's a fan favourite, and it'll be very hard for him to not be one that most people want to be starting every week. I feel like, he's potential captain material, so it'd be unlikely he does get dropped. But hey, you never know. Any other topic, conversation starters, or questions, or comments, or theories, or anything you've got? Now's the time to throw it out for me to just address it and and make sure that I express what everyone has to say after the game tonight. But if no one has anything to say, we'll just about wrap things up, I think. Again, interested to hear how you guys think we'll go about the next 2 games. What should be the mentality? Wellington, it's a completely new dynamic, and I don't really know what the best way forward is in terms of how to approach these next 2 games, particularly given that they're at home and that we haven't been getting results at home, or preferable results, at least in the last month and a bit. So I'm very interested to hear how people think we should line up. Any changes to the starting 11? I'd love AP to come out and tell us when he's going to be fit again. Are you back next week, AP? If you're still tuned in, love to know. And also, yeah, Blackwood. How did Blackwood look tonight? He came on for I think about 10 or 15 minutes. Can't quite recall how long it was exactly. Again, do you guys agree with me that George Blackwood should be the main striker that we throw all our eggs into the one basket with, and just rely on him from here on end and hope that he doesn't get injured at all anymore? Or is he the stopgap, and when Bubba's back and it's all about Bubba? Or do you throw in the potential of a January signing in the striking department? Did see a report that we're supposedly chasing Tommy Juric. Doubt it'll happen. Players generally, after leaving Adelaide and making it into the national team, don't want to know about us. The whole I'm a Socceroo tag, even though ironically he hasn't been picked in the Asian Cup, the whole I'm a Socceroos tag pretty much always ensures that those types of players just outprice themselves when it comes to negotiating contracts with Adelaide, because obviously we do things a little bit cheaper than most other clubs, I think is fair to say. So I doubt Juric will entertain any rumours about a return to Adelaide United. Why would he? Because let's be honest, if he's going to come back to the A-League, he'll have all the big guns after him. I'm sure Western Sydney will put something in for him because he had his best time in the A-League there. There's no question about that. So is Juric is that just a rumour, or is there something material there to suggest that maybe we can land Juric in January? I'd love it. I'd absolutely cop the hell out of it to get Juric back in a Reds kit, but I'm not convinced that it'll happen. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up. There won't be a preview for the Wellington game, unfortunately, but we've bashed out a good number of videos this week, and if anyone knows anything about that, it's Marty Keogh, because she does a lot of sharing. And make sure you jump on and like her personal page as well, Marty's Sports Updates, I think is the name of it. Across a whole lot of sports, she covers a lot on that page: tennis, football, anything relevant going on in the Australian sporting landscape. Make sure you give that page some love, as well as all the Adelaide United supporter pages. So AFC News, Adelaide United, the supporter page, and the Reds page. They are continuously updating you with everything, whether it's 4 a.m, 4 p.m. Those pages are always keeping us in the know with the club. We'll be back for the victory game. Our cameras will be out in force for Coopers. That'll be such a exciting prospect to look forward to. Who doesn't love the idea of maybe having a few frothies and then doing the march into Cooper Stadium for a huge game against our biggest rival, where we're probably on our best day, and maybe not their best day, quite at a similar level. As opposed to yesteryear where they just used to smash us year in, year out, and we know all about those dark days. I think with everyone fit against victory, we're not too far off, especially with all the support behind the team at Cooper's Stadium, rallying the team on. Now, Aaron David's just chimed in with a comment. I'm not sure about the tone that you've used, Aaron, because you've got to admit, it was trying circumstances, and the team really, gave everything they had, clearly out of anything left in the tank, and the team rallied as best they could to bring home the result. Anyway, to the actual comment. So Aaron says, lucky result from an insipid performance. Certainly the aspect of, the fact that we had the rub of the green is valid. I'll give you the fact that it's valid. But, like I said, I think we controlled the midfield during quite large periods of the game. Topper, Stanley and Bogart are not exactly a guaranteed clean sheet on any day of the week. And, you can certainly say that defensively Newcastle weren't great and we caused them trouble. So as opposed to prior performances I've seen from Adelaide United across 15 years, I don't think you can call this insipid. We've come away and won, not being in great form in the A-League. How long's it been since? So Raw in round 6 was the last time we won. You can't say, having not won for 4 games, that to win on the road is ever insipid. But in terms of, could we have been a bit more comfortable with how we went about things and made sure that we came away with 3 points without putting the fans through 2,000 heart attacks in the last 10 minutes? Yeah, but it's clear that as soon as we went 1-0 up, really, the instruction from the side was to shut up shop and just defend first and make sure that we do our diligence defensively, and if anything else comes from it, it's a bonus. But just take that 1-0 result from Newcastle. Now, it didn't look like that was going to work, especially when we conceded the first goal to Newcastle's equaliser. Clearly it became a case of park it and just try to do something on the counter with the pace that we've got. And that worked in terms of the game plan. And on the road, there's nothing ever wrong with that. But yeah, have we seen more dominant displays, maybe under the Gombau years against Newcastle? Yeah, absolutely we have. And, I don't expect us to forget those kinds of performances from the past, because there are times where we've really bossed this particular opposition. But I think it's a little bit harsh to say insipid. Remember all the players that are out. It's a mammoth task, really, to go there and win, particularly given they haven't been in very bad form at all. So, thanks for the comment, though. There are definitely aspects of what you've said which are true, but I don't think insipid is really a fair choice of word to describe the performance tonight. I thought it was definitely desperate, but well earned, I would say. And I think we all have to be really proud of our players. Did anyone else think anything other than all the key components of tonight that have already been addressed? I don't think I mentioned Owen's comment. So Owen says that was a good win. Can see what you're trying to do there, mate. Absolutely. Craig actually came out in the post game reaction with Adam Peacock and was really quite hard on himself. He got asked about how the Asian Cup's about to start and he didn't get picked in the squad and he's playing for Adelaide instead, and is he disappointed, yada yada. And he basically came out and said, yeah, my performances have been shit lately. I think I deserve to be there. I think I'm good enough to be playing in the Asian Cup for Australia, but my last month has been not where I want it to be in terms of my performances, and thus I have to take it on the chin when it comes to not being in the squad selection to go to the UAE for the Asian Cup, which is starting, I think, next week. It's the first game. Thank God we haven't lost any more players. Imagine if we didn't have Goodwin tonight because of the Asian Cup. Jesus, it's already starting to look pretty dire in terms of players who are available. So, that's an interesting thing to keep in the back of our mind. Graham Arnold's been quite generous for us in that regard, not stealing anyone for the Asian Cup. But yeah, Craig, contributed probably more than anyone other than Izzo for Adelaide tonight, and yet talked about how poor he's been recently, and I think that's being a bit I mean, everyone's their own worst critic, right? But, I mean, seriously, Craig, you're the poster boy of this team. And like I addressed this in my last episode that I did with Chris Adams, the preview show, where I said that it's unfair for everyone to expect Craig Goodwin to dazzle in the way that he performs week in, week out, just because of the first month he had. He had an exceptional first month, and he's been doing his job ever since. He's been playing as a classic out-and-out winger, and you can never expect those kinds of players to always be scoring goals. Has he had chances in games that he hasn't taken? Yeah, absolutely. But for him to come out and slate himself that harshly, I think there's probably a few other guys in there that warrant that kind of heavy criticism a little bit more than our star player. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. Thanks so much for tuning in. What a result at the end of the tonight to bring home to Adelaide. Nigel Bogard giving us a bit of a late Christmas present with that reckless penalty challenge. Really didn't need to go in for it. I don't think Kiddo was going anywhere near goal. He was going away from goal. But Nigel Bogard gives us a late Chrissy present, and we emerge with 3 points, maybe with a little bit of luck as well. But hey, we'll take it and we'll run. I'll see you guys for Victory away. Unfortunately, like I said, I'll miss Wellington away. But I hope we come away with a win there next Thursday. The main thing now for Marco Kurz is just to get these players back to Adelaide, have the recovery session, and just wrap them all up in cotton wool, basically, and make sure no one else between now and then gets injured in training, because we want to preserve as many bodies as we can going into such a loaded period. Thanks for tuning in. I've been your host, Ellis Gelios, on the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great New Year. Cheers.